Okay, we are live. Let me just share this link. Make sure there's no audio coming through here. Okay. No, there's no audio coming through. What's going on there? Okay, my audio's coming through there. My audio coming through. Okay. Alright, mute that. Have this come through my headphones. It's okay. Okay, cool. Alright, is this working now? Let me hear. Yes, it is. Okay. We can mute this anyway. Share that. Alright, I'll just wait for some people to join the chat here. Should be a few people in a second, and I'll start this. Okay, anyone in the chat? Alright, Graham Coleman's in the chat. Oh, my bad, you revising. What are you revising for? Like, what are you studying? Sorting out some settings here. Okay. Right. Let's see if anybody can hear me. Hello? Testing. Okay. Jones 20. Okay, Graham Coleman says Prince to Project Management course. Okay. What's happening, people? What's happening? Just waiting for a few more people to join the live chat, and we'll get this going. Alright, Graham Coleman says hopefully it will land me a decent job. It's a big deal in Germany. Alright, let me Google that. Prince to Project Management. Okay, let me Google it. like to keep myself informed. Prince. Prince the project management. Here it is. Okay. Prince 2 is a structured project management method, practitioner certification program. Prince 2 emphasizes dividing projects into manageable and controllable stages. It is adopted in many countries worldwide, including the UK, Western European countries, and Australia. Alright. Yes, Asim. What's good, bro? Prince 2. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I got it. I found it on Google. Ismail, what's good? Graham Coleman says that first comment on the YouTube video you uploaded was deep. I'm not even sure which comment that was or which video that was. If it's on the boxing channel, then I don't read most of the comments. In fact, I hardly read any of them, to be honest, because there's so many trolls and stuff like that. I'm like, you know what? Let people write what they want, man. If I catch someone saying something slick, okay, sorry, all right. That first comment on the okay, you're talking about the MGTOW video. All right, yeah, okay. Okay, Michael. I'm seeing some people commenting on the actual Patreon posts, but they don't. A couple of them I don't think are in the chat yet. Yeah, the MGTOW thing. I want to talk about MGTOW today, actually. Alright, so let's start this live stream off. We'll talk about MGTOW. I did post this video on the Patreon page of this Ukrainian woman who is basically saying that she understands why men are becoming MGTOW. Now, I'm not MGTOW. It's not something I identify with. I can understand why there is such a movement. It's basically the natural reaction to feminism, because feminism has destroyed the family. Feminism had destroyed male-female relations. So, women are becoming increasingly selfish and narcissistic. And I don't want to say all women. I'm talking about a lot of women, particularly women of the younger generations in the Western world, are becoming increasingly selfish, increasingly anti-male, and I think increasingly delusional. They're literally becoming delusional, which is scary. Ismail says, "Hey man, what ended up happening with the soundproofing in your flat, and did you get it sorted?" Nah. Nah, the soundproofing, I think, is what it is. Yes, big up G-Man Boxing. Okay, Asim Khan says, alright, yeah, the video on YouTube. Let me read the video. Let me read the comment actually on YouTube for this video. Let me see if I can find it here. Alright, let me have a look at this comment. Let me see here. Is the comment you're talking about, Graham Coleman, the one on the actual YouTube video, like the comment on YouTube? I'm assuming it is. Yeah. Alright, so let me read this comment anyway. It says, "I was married to a very attractive woman and she knew as much. We were together for 15 years and we had two children together. I guess in the end she started to feel like we, or at least I, wasn't good enough for her and she could get any guy she wanted. My crime was I worked too much, I guess. I never fooled around or betrayed her in any way. Anyhow, one day she just starts going out again at night to bars and clubs while looking her best. She became increasingly withdrawn and not participating with the rest of the family. I left. I left the kids with her and became the every other weekend parent and started paying child support. Every time I'd pick the kids up, my wife was getting ready to go out and dressed to the nines. It killed me to see her this way. I proposed an arrangement where I would pick the kids up Friday night after work and then drop them off at school Monday morning. She'd pick them up from school Monday afternoon. This eliminated me seeing her on Sunday, and I considered it a small victory. 2 months in, I returned home from work on a Monday evening to see my kids sitting on my front porch. Puzzled I was as they came running up to me and gave me a big hug. They shouted, "Daddy, we get to stay with you for a while." My wife had picked them up from school as planned and dropped them off at my house. Confused, I ushered the kids indoors and then called my wife to find out what was going on. "I can't take care of them," is what she said. I'll never forget that moment, because it was in this moment that I fully realized that her behavioral changes over the last few months wasn't really about me. It was about her. It was about her and her desire to do whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. It likely influenced her decision to abandon our children, probably because she'd look at them and feel guilty about her choices. That was 7 years ago. I've now gone through all the big moments of my kids' lives alone. My daughter's first boyfriend, teaching her to drive her first car, and recently graduating high school. Now my son is learning to drive. Maybe I'm a rare example, but I do understand what being with a woman who has little to no family values is like. Am I willing to risk so much again? Not likely. Okay. Another person here says, all a good man wants is a traditional woman, but they are just disappearing. So going MGTOW is the natural reaction to current feminism. Yeah, that's why I see it as. I see it as a reaction to feminism. I don't know whether MGTOW is the answer, whether MGTOW can actually resolve the issues that we're having. I don't know. But it is a reaction to feminism. Big up Abs Boxing TV. Okay. A few more people joining the chat now. Mark Andrews, yes, yes. Graham Coleman said, I sent that to my missus who's Polish. She said that has to be an English woman. Kasim, what's good? Ayed, yes, yes, what's good? Yeah, in fact, I'm going to read a couple comments from the last couple Patreon posts. Let me read a couple comments here, including the last post, the MGTOW post. A couple people left comments on there. In fact, let's start with those. Okay, Jay left a comment saying, I can only talk to Eastern European women because I never dated outside my own race. But what Hatman says above is true for countries like Ukraine, Romania, Moldova, etc. But don't think for 1 second you can go out there and get a 10. The 10s out there are pure savage because they adhere to traditional gender roles. They're like really masculine men who have iron conduct and frame. If you show any weakness, you will not have any luck with the hottest girls out there. They tend to hang with mafia, etc. If you're just looking for a decent looking girl though, like the one in the video, then Eastern Europe is better than the UK. The downside to moving there is that these countries are corrupt and a lot more dangerous than the UK. If you are rich, they have very good options, however. I mean, to be fair, I think if you're rich, most countries have got good options. As a man, money is the cure to most things, unfortunately. Because you can be an ugly man, you can be an old man, like literally 1 foot in the grave old. But if you got money, you can get a 10. You can get a nice looking woman quite easily if you've got money. So that's irrespective of what country you're in the world. But be that as it may, the stuff you were saying there, I mean, perhaps it's true, you know. The Eastern European culture is like Western European culture used to be about 50 or 60 years ago. So the traditional gender roles are very much there. And indeed, I mean, look, in any society, let me not say any, but in most societies, it's going to be difficult to get a 10 for the average guy. You know, you're probably going to get somebody the same as you, you know, or slightly better looking than you in a lot of society, depending on what you have, depending on who you are and how you go about your business. But yeah, I can see that in terms of the 10. I can see that in most societies, very good looking women have got no excuse for not being successful, really. They've got no excuse, because when you're a good looking woman, they lay out the red carpet for you, and you have so many opportunities, so many doors are open for you. There's really no excuse for not being successful if you're a good looking woman. And because of that, they tend to be more picky. But it's got to such a stage in the Western world that a lot of the women who have attitudes and who are selfish and treat men like shit are women who are not even particularly good looking. That's the crazy thing about it. If you go into social media, you see girls who are like average looking, you know, slightly above average looking, and their heads are gassed. Oh my God, because they've got all these simps telling them that they're wifey and amazing and this, that, and the other. They got simps, thousands of them, following them on social media and gassing their heads up. And this is why I always say to anybody, any man, but particularly the MGTOW crowd, is you need to be harder on men. Yeah, you need to be harder on men. I was actually listening to a live stream. In fact, let me put the chat box on screen right now. 1 second here, people. I was actually listening to a live stream by Star. Some of you guys will know Star. All right, he's a shock jock, basically. He's a mixed race American shock jock who's in his 50s now. He used to do like radio and TV and stuff like that back in the early 2000s. And he recently did a live stream about MGTOW. And man, I forgot what I was going to say about it. I had a point to make about what the stuff he was saying on MGTOW. It will come to me in a second. Let me just get to some of these comments here. Good afternoon, Nisha. Yes, yes. How are you? Asim says, Hatman, would you consider doing your live stream sessions at a fixed time? I would definitely consider it, but my life is quite hectic, so I don't always get the opportunity to do things on at regular intervals. Mardingo says, Hatman, do you regularly watch Alpha Male Strategies? You put me onto him a couple weeks ago. Do you agree with his dating philosophy, having a rotation of meaningless hoes? I don't watch him regularly. I've seen a couple of his videos. I'm not actually subscribed to him. I think that the dating world for men in Western society, in modern Western society, is an unnatural landscape. All right, this is a foreign, alien landscape. It's unnatural. And so in order to survive in that landscape, you're going to have to do unusual things. You're going to have to do stuff which is not really ideal. It's like the old saying goes, you either adapt or die. You know? So it's a messed up society. It's a messed up situation. So you have to end up doing some messed up things a lot of the time in order to get by. And I guess that's what Alpha Male Strategies is teaching people, is how to get by doing certain messed up things in modern American society or Western society. So yeah, Abs Boxing TV says, check your Patreon community tab, read some of our comments if you can. Yep, that's what I'll be doing, bro. Abs Boxing TV says, any female who is a 9 or above are absolute trash on the inside, stuck up pieces of toxic waste. That's pretty strong, but it may well be true, particularly for the younger generation. Abs Boxing TV, how old are you, bro? I think you're quite young, right? Like in your 20s? Because definitely for the younger generation, boy, it's tough. It's a lot tougher for the younger generation than it was for me when I was in my 20s. Christian Louis, big up. Graham Coleman says, I agree. All the Polish women I've been with, they don't like weakness. Okay, you know, man. My missus always tells me I should go out and hunt meat, and I live in the city. Yeah. Okay, High Noon says, "Hi man, when are we getting the Alistair Crowley podcast?" Yeah, keep pestering me about it because I do need to do that. Okay, Mardingo says, yes, alpha male strategies is teaching people to stop complaining about female nature and just adapt to it. He says MGTOW are pussies basically. His stuff applies to American women, but not really to women where I am. Some of it applies though. Okay, okay. Uh, hmm. Yeah, the whole MGTOW thing. Like I said, I was watching a live stream about it, and people were bringing up certain points. And one of the guys on the live stream, on Star's live stream, about MGTOW, he did a live stream part 1 and part 2 about MGTOW. And in part 2, I think it was, there was a guy going by the name of the Grand Finale, and he was a MGTOW representative. And one thing he said to me, which was interesting, is that he used to be a simp, right? So he used to be a guy who would bend over backwards for women, jump through hoops and all this kind of stuff. And eventually he kept getting played, and he kept getting disrespected, and that's why he went MGTOW. And he was on there claiming that all men at one point in time have been simps. Now, I had to take exception to that because I've never been a simp. In my whole life, I've never been that kind of guy who lets women take advantage, who goes above and beyond for a woman when she hasn't earned it. Like, I will go above and beyond for anybody who earns my trust and earns my confidence and earns my friendship. You understand? If somebody is a friend of mine, and you know, regardless if it's a male or a female, if they're a friend of mine and I think they're good people, then I will go above and beyond for them. And that goes for a woman I'll be in a relationship with. If she's proven herself to me and she's there for me, I'll go above and beyond. You understand? I'll help her in whatever way I can. But in terms of like being a simp, turning up for dates with flowers and, you know, all this kind of business, just paying for everything simply because she's a woman and she looks good, that's not me. It's never been me. I've never been taken advantage of by a woman. You know what I mean? Like, I've never had a woman fuck me over for money. I've never had a woman, as far as I know, because you can never know for certain, but I've never had a woman cheat on me. So I've never had issues with women like that. I've met a couple crazy women who I wasn't in committed relationships with. I was just like, you know, messing around, and some of them were crazy and they got locked off. You understand? But in terms of doing the whole simp thing where I'm getting burned here and burned there, I've never been burned. So I don't know what that feels like, because I've never put that energy out as a simp. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not saying every man who gets burned is a simp. Don't get it twisted. That's not what I'm saying at all. But for this guy to come out and say every man was a simp at one point in time and they didn't understand and they were naive about women. I knew about women. I don't know how. Maybe it's because I'm naturally cynical, but I knew about women from when I was a little boy. Yeah, I knew about women, or I knew about girls. Let me correct myself. I knew about girls from when I was a little boy. I remember being in primary school, yeah, and there was a couple of my friends in primary school who, can you imagine, they were talking about love. I remember my two friends were sat that they'd had girlfriends in primary school and stuff like that, and they were sitting down lamenting their breakups with these girls, these little primary school boys. And I looked at them, I was like, and I said something to like, oh, you men are some pussies or or something, when I was like, I don't know, 9, 10 years old. I was like, you men are some pussies, man. And they said to me, you don't know nothing about love. You don't know what it's like. Little 9 and 10-year-old boys saying this, you know. And I was like, listen, love is for girls, man. That's what I said when I was 9, 10 years. I was like, love is for girls. So from when I was very young, I had this kind of macho, you know, puff your chest out attitude towards women, I never really bought into the whole being romantic and bringing them flowers and all that kind of business. Any woman who's ever been with me will tell you, okay, he's nice to me, but he's not romantic. I don't do all the romance business. I don't do none of that. Never have. So, you know, different guys have been through different situations. My issue with women, if I have an issue, is getting past the first hurdle. That's where I fight. That's where I encounter most of the issues. And because I'm a hard line kind of person, I don't take any nonsense. I would obviously have to go through a lot of women before I find a woman, okay, who I can say, okay, I can deal with this woman. You know, I can take this situation somewhere. Because if I meet a woman and I'm getting the wrong vibe from her immediately, that woman is getting locked off like there and then. I don't care how good looking she is. If I'm getting the wrong vibe, I'm not going to pursue it. You understand? And she'll be like, huh? What happened? If she says the wrong thing, she don't even have to say anything directly rude to me. But if she just says the wrong thing, it gives me an insight into the way that she thinks. That's it. She's locked off. So I've always been that way. And because of that, I haven't had the issues that a lot of other guys have had in terms of being burned a load of times and taken for a fool and all that kind of thing. So it depends what kind of person you are, you know. But I fully understand. But here's the thing as well, right? Even that Ukrainian woman, when she did that video, did you listen to what she said? One of the first things that she said in that video, she said these MGTOW guys are not loser men necessarily. What is a loser man? Like, what kind of man is a loser? You see, I'm somebody who's empathetic. Not everybody can be a hit with the ladies. Not every man can be classed as a quote-unquote winner. Some men are going to be looked upon by women as losers. Like, it's not their fault that certain men are losers. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't see them as losers. I see them as people who are victims of the society we live in today. If those men were in a traditional society, they'd probably already be married and, you know, it would be okay. But in this modern society, there are certain men who struggle to cope, who struggle more so than other men do, and they get labeled losers. They're human beings. They're trying their best, you know. So even among men, like when I was listening to that MGTOW live stream on Stars channel, there were certain men that were calling up and criticizing the MGTOW movement. Oh, you guys are all a bunch of pussies and you can't get women and you're just angry because you can't get women. Well, again, every man is not equally capable. You understand? Like, why are you having a go at men who are not as equally capable as you? I don't do that. I don't get that, and I don't do that. So all I can say to men is try and keep your self-respect intact. Don't bend over backwards and jump through hoops or make a fool of yourself, because you don't necessarily have to if you follow the advice that I always give, which is to look for women from different parts of the world rather than a modern Western woman from the younger generations. Look for a woman from a more traditional society. That way you're not going to have to compromise your dignity or anything like that in order to get one of these women. So that's what I would say. If you're actually looking for a woman to be your long-time partner or your wife, then you need to look further afield. If all you want to do is satisfy your sexual desires and you just want to, you know, something quick and easy, then take the other advice that I've given and tell these women who are shallow and not very virtuous, tell them what they want to hear in order to get them into bed. And, you know, in that instance, I would probably co-sign what Alpha Male Strategies is teaching. Yeah, if you're just looking for sexual gratification, then tell these women whatever they want to hear. Especially, you know, even if it's not the truth, tell them whatever they need to hear in order to give you the green light, you know. Alright, Abs Boxing TV says, yeah, Hatman, I'm 22. You know, I've spoken to so many people over the years about lots of different things, and I remember when I was working in a job which had a bunch of old people in the job. It was a security job way back in the days. And one of these security guards was an old Jamaican man who was about, I think, 60 years old. He was coming up to retirement. And he used to talk a lot of nonsense a lot of the time, but one of the things he said to me was, I'm glad I'm not young anymore. I wouldn't want to be young today. And I looked at him, because at the time I was young, and I looked at him and I was like, what are you talking rubbish for? You'd love to be young. You got one foot in the grave, you're like 60 years old. You would love to be young again. But it's not until the last couple years that I really understood what he was saying. And I feel the same way. I would love to be young again if you could, transport me in a time machine back to 1985. I would love to be young again. But to be young in today's generation, excuse my French people, but fuck that. This generation is so messed up. It's got so many things to cope with that my generation didn't have to cope with. Like, I wouldn't want to be young in today's generation. Yeah, I'd love to be young again, but not now. Not in 2019. Hell no. Okay. Okay, Ayed says, I disagree with Abs Boxing TV. I'm 23 and in my experience the hottest girls are okay, but the 5s, 6s and 7s are so egotistical, it's weird. I mean, it depends on your circle, what circle you're in, but in my experience, I have to agree with what Abs is saying. That basically the better looking the girls are, the worse the attitude is, and the less they've got going on upstairs. That's generally the case from my experience. It's been like that. The most virtuous women are usually, not the best looking women in Western society. The best looking women, they usually don't have to develop their personalities because they've got all these simps running them down and giving them whatever they want, complimenting them, telling them they're amazing. So because they get all this attention, it's so readily available, they don't feel like they have to do anything else. They don't feel like they have to develop their personality. They don't feel like they have to develop any real people skills. All they do is just put their nice looking clothes on, go gym, fix their hair and makeup, and that's it. They think that is all they need to do in life. And so people like that are not really going to be very mature. They're not really going to be very good to be around because they are narcissistic most of the time and vacuous. They don't really have anything else going on upstairs. The Boxing Roundup says, Hatman, has your YouTube revenue plummeted this month? It hasn't plummeted. No, it hasn't plummeted. It's lower than it was last month, but that's normal. CPM goes up and down, and in December, when they have the Christmas push to drive people to buy things before Christmas, that's when CPM generally goes up in December. So December is normally a much stronger month when it comes to YouTube ad revenue. January, it hasn't been as strong as December, but that was expected. It hasn't plummeted, not for me anyway, but I think it depends on what network you're on. If you're on a YouTube network, if you're dealing with YouTube directly, what part of the world you live in. Also, it depends on your videos. Are you doing longer videos? Are you doing shorter videos? What is the audience engagement like? So there are many different factors that will play into what your ad revenue is doing. All I would say is study the analytics, look at the days where you earn the most money, and have a look at the videos that you uploaded on that day and see what those videos were. What subjects were they about? How long were the videos? Etc., etc. And then you'll figure out a formula for keeping your revenue high. Just to give you a little insight there for anybody who has a YouTube channel. Okay, G-Man Boxing says, Cassim Mo says, Hatman, will this live stream be released as audio only? Yes, it will. Graham Coleman says, Hatman, don't forget Carl Frutch review on the boxing channel. I'm from Nottingham originally, so it'll be interesting for me. Alright, I got you on that. G-Man Boxing says, Hatman, a girl I saw years back, a 7 out of 10, told me she got her latest boyfriend to buy her a 2012 Audi to prove he loves her despite the fact she can't drive. The idiot paid over 12 grand for a 2012 Audi. Arabs Boxing TV says, Graham Coleman, is just women who are trash, bro, and most of them are trash. Ishmael says, women in this Instagram age are starting to become homogenous, fake bums and boobs, the lot. The more homogenous they are, the more the supply of good looking women surgically enhanced. They all look the same now. Okay, I get the point you're making there. Yeah, they're looking like clones, right? They're looking like they came off a conveyor belt. a lot of these women, they have the same kind of look and all that business. Yeah, I get it. Nisha says, we all crazy. I guess you mean all women are crazy. That's not true. No, all women are not crazy. It's just Western society in general is becoming crazy. The way they're socially engineering it. And they want women to become narcissistic. They basically want to break down the family, the social engineers. Because united we stand, divided we fall. And the best way to control society is to have an atomized society where human beings no longer form strong families, strong communities, tribes, so on and so on. They don't want that no more. That's too difficult to control. When you have a situation like that, you're more likely to get resistance from the population. So they want a population of atomized consumers. Atomized meaning everybody broken down into individuals rather than communities. And consumers because that's all people are focused on. Consuming, buying stuff, attaining material wealth. This is all people are focused on now. That's all people think life is about, is attaining material wealth. There's no emphasis really put on family, community, even a spiritual component. These things are all old hat now. That's the way people view it, and that's the way the social engineers have designed people to become, or designed society to become, you know. Matthew Bromfield, big up, big up, big up. Okay, Mardingo says, I was simpish at 16 but never again after that. Lost a real good girl I was with for 5 years through being too aloof. I'm now 32, single for 6 years and happy to keep a rotation system. Yeah, while I focus on making money. That's what a lot of guys got to do. That's what a lot of guys got to do. Matthew Bromfield says, it's scientifically proven that women are more attracted to men whose feelings are unclear. That's why treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen works. Women will be all over you if they think your attention is not with them. Facts. Facts. Matthew Bromfield is clearly somebody who knows about women. 100% true. 100% true. I've found this out in practice. So the fact that the science is also backing it up just backs up what I've already seen in my life. Is when you treat them mean, you keep them keen. When you show a woman you're not interested, actually when you're genuinely not interested, when you genuinely don't care about whether you see this woman again or not, she will find it difficult to walk away from you. Even if she does walk away, it's often just a stunt to try and see if she can win your attention back. Yeah, when you're genuinely not interested in a woman, when in your mind she's genuinely dispensable, expendable, she'll find it difficult to walk away. And I think it plays on women's insecurity. This is why a lot of them behave like this, because in their mind they're thinking, okay, why doesn't he care about me? I haven't done enough yet to make this guy care. Maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not attractive enough, maybe I'm not doing. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you don't show a woman that you really like her and she's unsure about what you feel, it's going to make her feel unsure about herself, and then she's going to try and, you know, get your attention back and do whatever she has to do to try and get you to get into her like that, if that makes sense. Ismail says, same for men. The less attention a woman shows you, the more you want them. However, you have to be a man of substance for it to work, for the treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen thing to work. Yeah, yeah. If you call, money, career, substance, I mean, all depends on how you view these things. Mardingo says, sell them a dream and then toss them to the side of the road. Alright. You see, I'm somebody who, I treat people the way they present themselves. So if a woman, and this goes for probably 99% of women on social media in the Western world, they present themselves as little more than sexual objects. I mean, am I lying? What do they really project on social media? They show themselves looking attractive with cleavage and, nice dresses and their hair all done. That's what they project. How many women on social media do you see, and particularly like Instagram, these dating apps, how many of them who are looking for men will have pictures of them cooking in the kitchen, keeping their house, pictures of them with little babies, showing their nurturing instinct, showing their motherhood quality or their motherhood potential? How many women will show these things on dating websites or Instagram or stuff like that? Virtually none. None of them project the virtues of a true wife material. Do you understand? Of true wifey material. None of them project that, or very few of them. 99.9% of them are projecting sexuality. But then they turn around and complain that men only see them as sex objects. Well, that's what you're projecting. If a woman, for example, I come from a family where we have a lot of housewives in my family. Like my mom, she did work, when we were growing up from home. She was a childminder for a while. But for the most part, she was a housewife. My auntie was a housewife. My grandmother was a housewife, so on and so forth. When I come across women who are housewives, or women who want to be housewives, I give them women massive amounts of respect. I roll out the red carpet for them kind of women. You understand? Because I see, obviously, my mom in them women. I see my aunties. I see the kind of women I grew up respecting. I see them in these traditional women. Do you understand? So I'm going to treat them kind of women with a hell of a lot of respect. I would never try to play them out or, any of that kind of business. But when women are not behaving in that way, and when all they're projecting is sex, then that's how I'm going to treat them. I'm going to treat them as sex objects, because that's all they're projecting, is that they are an object of sexual gratification. These young girls now on Instagram, they're all sticking their tongues out. I mean, if that's not sexually suggestive, I don't know what is. They've all got like tongue piercings and they're all sticking their tongues out and opening their mouths and shit. It's like something from a porno movie. So they're doing all that and they're running around talking about, oh, don't look at me like a sex object. Oh, what the hell you expect men to look at you as? It's crazy. Yeah, Matthew Bromfield is 100% right. Yeah, they respect you more when they know they can't walk over you. But as soon as you show them you'll bend over backwards, they lose interest. They need to know that you are able to walk away. If they compromise the relationship through their actions, they will. Yeah, they will respect you more. Indeed. Ayed says, one of my favorite podcasts you have done was talking about Mayweather and Vladimir Klitschko's choice of women. I couldn't believe how stupid they are, especially Vlad, whose girl met a new guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand it. There's no excuse for a rich man to not have a decent woman, a virtuous woman. There's no excuse. If you're a rich man, if you're a Klitschko, a Mayweather, you can literally have whatever type of woman you want. If you want a traditional woman who's also good looking, you can have that. Yeah, you can have that. There's no excuse for you to be running around with these like strippers and actresses and all this kind of business. What are you doing that for? You're shooting yourself in the foot. As I mentioned in a podcast recently, having a relationship in the public eye is never a good idea. That's never a good idea anyway, because it puts a lot of pressures on you that wouldn't ordinarily be there. So having a relationship in the public eye is a recipe for disaster in general. keep your other half away from the public eye. Don't, if you're a public figure, don't marry someone or get someone who is already a celebrity or who wants to be a celebrity. Because with Floyd Mayweather's ex, or one of his exes, you know, the girl who, I can't remember her name, is it Miss something? I can't remember her name, but she was an aspiring model, and so she saw Mayweather as a way to boost her career and gain success as a model. That's how she saw it. You don't want a woman like that if you're a public figure. You don't want a woman who's got no aspirations for fame or anything like that. That's a recipe for disaster. Alright. Alpha male mentality, indeed, Matthew Bromfield. Quickest way to get someone's attention is to remove yours. Women who see men who have an air of abundance and have no problem getting women. Yeah. Okay, big up Wesley. How are you doing, Wesley? I'm good, bro. The Boxing Roundup says, thoughts on boxing cleavage. On pheno boxing cleavage. What is pheno boxing cleavage, bro? You'll have to enlighten me. Okay, Matthew Bromfield says, modern beta male social justice warrior men have created this problem. Most men have not been able to get women. They've given women a chip on their shoulder just for their looks. Even the munters. Indeed. Indeed. I mean, yeah, beta males, look, not everybody can be an alpha male, so I don't want to be too harsh on beta males, but I do want to encourage beta males to look at the big picture, you know, and a lot of beta males only find out when it's too late. That's why I think there's probably a lot of beta males in the MGTOW movement, because these were beta males who before would have probably been defending women. You know, like, oh no, women are okay, and these are the kind of men who call themselves feminists. Can you imagine men who call themselves feminists? These kind of men are making it more difficult for men in general by simping, by catering to the worst aspects of female nature. And look, men and women have got their strengths and weaknesses. We've both got the more destructive elements of our nature. And with women, vanity is something you have to try and curb in women. If you let women get carried away with their vanity, it can become a monster. You know, like Frankenstein's monster, and it can just grow into something uncontrollable if you let women get carried away with their vanity. Their vanity can get to such a level that they don't give a fuck about anything else. They don't care about their kids. They don't care about the man. They don't care about their family. Their vanity is all that matters. Just feeding that vanity. You need to be very careful when it comes to that with women. You know, their vanity can get out of control. And their sense in Western society today of the self-entitlement, that just because we are women, we're entitled to this, we're entitled to that. Men have to pay, and at the same time as men paying, we're also not going to do anything for you in return. We're not going to cook, we're not going to clean. Just because I'm a woman, you're not allowed to talk to me in a certain way. You have to treat me with a certain level of respect. You have to roll out the red carpet, particularly if I'm a good-looking woman. You have to do all this kind of stuff just because. I don't have to be virtuous in any way. In fact, I'm going to be the opposite of virtuous. I'm going to be mean and I'm going to be horrible to you. And that's the way it's supposed to be, because I'm a good looking woman. This is the attitude which the simps have catered for, have apologized for. And there's also a case where some men, just by luck of the draw, have not grown up surrounded by toxic women. And, you know, particularly men from older generations, this is what I've noticed. Men from older generations don't really understand why young men are angry and frustrated with women. They don't understand it, because the women in their generation, like if men are 50 and above, most of the women from that generation were domestic. They weren't so career orientated. And so in that generation, you had a lot of men who had their way with women. You understand that a lot of men did take advantage of women. Let's not get it twisted. There were some horrible men. There are some horrible people in general. You know, there have always been men who will treat the housewife like shit. Will come home, slap her about after he comes back from the pub. Horrible guys like that have always existed. Although I always maintain that men like that are a minority. You know, when I was growing up back home before we came to the UK, we lived in a traditional community, you understand, where a lot of the women were housewives and stuff like that. But there was a guy in the neighborhood who was beating his wife, and I think he was drinking and stuff like that, and he was just being a prick. I guess he was stressed out at work, and he got into some, I guess, routine where he would take out his frustrations on his wife at home. And his wife was a housewife, do you understand? She was, for all intents and purposes, as far as I know, she was a good woman. But he was taking the piss with the woman and whatnot. So my dad and his best friend, who's also the next door neighbor, went round to go speak to the guy. This is the kind of community that my dad is from, you know, small, tight-knit, traditional community. So when there was an issue with a guy slapping his wife around, my dad and his best friend went round and they said, this shit is going to stop today. You understand? This is going to stop today. If you're having any issues, you will talk to us. You understand? And we'll see if we can sort it out. We'll talk to her family and all this kind of business. This is how situations were resolved before. When you had a toxic man like that who was taking the piss. But now you kind of got the opposite. You got toxic women. And obviously women don't have the ability to physically dominate a man the way that men had the ability to physically dominate women. And I think because of that, a lot of stuff that women do, you know, people allow it to slide. It slips under the radar. People don't really notice it because it's not physical bullying. You understand? But it's very prevalent. That's why MGTOW exists. Because there's a lot of women out there who just treat men like trash. You know, I've had female friends over the years, many female friends, and I always pick their brains and talk to them about men and what they think about men and how they feel when men approach them and try and talk to them and stuff like that. And one thing I discovered a long time ago from the female friends I've had is that most of them are totally unaware of the struggles that men go through. And not only are they totally unaware, but when they become aware of the struggles men go through, they don't give a fuck. Most women who I've personally spoken to about male issues in terms of men struggling with confidence, men being treated badly by women. For example, a lot of women I know will complain about being approached by men, trying to chat them up on the street, at a supermarket, in a nightclub, online, etc. And, you know, these men, when they get rejected, they can sometimes, you know, feel a certain way, feel frustrated or whatever the case may be. And I try to explain to these women that this man has probably been rejected about 500 times. Do you understand? Like, it's that deep for him. What would you feel like as a woman if you got rejected dozens of times and you day in, day out, you're trying to talk to people and nobody wants you? How the hell do you think you would feel? You're going to feel frustrated. But again, most of the women I've known, they don't give a shit. They don't care. And the same when it comes to a woman looking at a man and, you know, figuring out whether he's worth being with. They look at what job he's doing, what his social situation is like. Is he a high-ranking member of his social circle or not? Does he even have friends? You know, so on and so. This is how women tend to assess a man. Now, a man could be in a situation where his life is messed up, right? He could have been through some tough times. He could have had a sick mother who he was nursing and he had to take care of for years, and that took most of his time and he couldn't pursue his career because of that. He might have some really tough upbringing and some sad story. And again, most women who I've known, they don't give a fuck about your sob story. They don't care what you've been through. All they want to see is results. If you don't have a car, if you don't have your own place, if you don't have a good job, they don't care why. They don't give a shit. They're not interested in your pain. All they want to see is success. And yeah, like, that's from personal experience. Women I've known, women who I called my friends, not women I was romantically involved in, just women I would talk to, you know, because that's when women really reveal their true nature to you, is when you're just platonic friends with them. You see how they really think. And that's one thing I discuss, is most women, at least the ones I've known, they don't give a shit about a man's hardships. They just don't care. And you always have to keep that in mind as a man, in this society anyway, in modern Western society with the younger generations, that most of these women are not going to give a shit if you go through hard times. If you've got plenty of money and you're doing well in life and you suddenly fall on hard times, don't be at all shocked if that woman finds someone else. I know a lot of people say this, but it really is true, because ultimately, in my experience, most of these women don't give a shit about your pain or your struggle. All they want is results. Like a football manager, you know, a football manager wants results, or at least the board wants results. The manager might give you the players a little bit of leeway, but the board are like, we want results, and that's it. And if we don't get the results, the manager's getting fired. They don't care about the manager going through this, that, or whatever in his life. They don't care about problem players. They don't care about none of that. They want results now. And if you're not giving us results now, you're gone. You can be the best manager in the world. You can be winning the Premier League 3-4 times in a row. But all of a sudden, if you have a bad season or 2 bad seasons on the bounce, you're getting fired. And all of the good that you did for the club in the past is all forgotten about. And that's how a lot of women are in modern society. That's just how it goes. Alright, let me get back to some of these comments here, people. Okay, Pheno Boxing Cleavage is a YouTube channel. Alright, never seen that channel. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I've seen Pheno Boxing. It does ring a bell, the name. Pheno Boxing. Have you not seen the okay. The bird with massive tits on show constantly. Ishmael says, Hatman, your thoughts on Dylan White's recent interview with Barbershop Conversations and Helen Yee Sports. I haven't seen those interviews yet. I'm going to try to catch up with them today. Hatman, is there a link between MGTOW and the NOFAP movement? You'll have to clue me up on NOFAP and NOFAP. I don't know what that is. Carly Woodbridge, big up Carly. Oh yeah, this has always been a bugbear of Carly's, is when I refer to women as females and not women. Well, the reason that I refer to women as females is because I'm trying to encompass all age ranges when I say that, because not all females are women. You know, some of them are teenagers, some of them are, you know, whatever you want to call them. So, do I know DJ Billy Business? No, I don't know who DJ Billy Business is. Enlighten me, Carly. Who is DJ Billy Business? What is he up to? Ayed says, I think White needs to be very careful. He seems to be slipping on an edge of overestimating his worth. For example, his pay-per-view with Chisora was not even close to Joshua Povetkin numbers. I don't know whether Dylan White really wants the AJ fight, to be honest with you. I don't know whether he really wants it. I think, because what happens if Dylan White takes the AJ fight? Most of us think he's going to lose, right? So if he loses and he doesn't manage to rock AJ this time, and he loses in fairly comprehensive fashion, and it's a relatively straightforward fight for AJ, what happens to Dylan White's pay-per-view after that? He's probably no longer a pay-per-view fighter, is he? If he fights AJ and loses in fairly one-sided fashion, all these pay-per-views are gone. And I think Dylan White is mindful of that. And I think Dylan White believes that he has a better chance of beating Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder than he does AJ, because he got knocked the fuck out by AJ. Yeah, he rocked him and he took the fight when he wasn't 100% and all that kind of business, but nothing is going to erase the memory of getting slumped the way he got slumped in the AJ fight. That lives in his mind. When someone has done that to you, you ain't gonna forget that. When you close your eyes at night, you're gonna remember that. And Dillian Whyte remembers that in the back of his head. So if he's gonna take the AJ fight, he wants to be paid a crazy amount of money. He sees himself as on the same level in terms of his market value as a Deontay Wilder and a Tyson Fury. That's how he sees himself. And so he wants that if he's going to risk getting in the ring with AJ, because he knows there's a very good possibility that if he fights AJ again, he's going to get knocked out again. He knows this. It's happened before. Why couldn't it happen again? So, look, I'm not saying Dillian Whyte would never take the AJ fight. I think if they pay him the right money, he'll take it. But he knows that that could be the end of him as a pay-per-view fighter if he fights AJ right now. I think that's what is going on here. So he's thinking, you know what, let me try go this other route. Let me entertain the possibility of becoming WBC mandatory, because now the WBC are saying or seem to be allowing for Dillian Whyte versus Dominic Breazeale as a final eliminator. Before, they were trying to force Dillian Whyte into fighting Ortiz, but if he would have fought Ortiz, he would only be the second mandatory, not the first mandatory. So he was thinking, that's a very risky fight, and I'm gonna have to wait, what, 2 years or something to get my shot? That's long. Let me fight Breazeale, then I might only have to wait 1 year from now to get my shot rather than 2, and it's an easier fight, and I can do it in the UK on pay-per-view and all that kind of business. So yeah, I think Dillian Whyte is still trying to go the WBC route, really, and you're gonna have to pay him a ridiculous amount of money to make him actually take the AJ fight. That's what I think is going on. Alright, let me see here. Carly says, not all women are like that, and I'm not saying all women are like that, Carly. I'm not saying all women are like that. But there's an increasing number, well, I don't know who Carly's responding to here, but yeah, there's obviously good women. I mean, the video I posted today with the Ukrainian woman saying she understands male issues and stuff like that. Yeah, but the women I've known, the vast majority of women I've personally known, they don't give a fuck about any struggles that men go through. They just don't care. They're not interested. It's not of any concern to them at all. And those are most of the women I've personally known. In fact, the attitude that women who I've known have towards men and men's issues, it's almost as if they don't think men actually have feelings. Yeah, they act as though men don't really have feelings. That men just are like robots or something. I don't know what it is. It's weird, but that's the vibe that I've gotten from most women I've known and most women I've spoken to about these things. The women who I've personally known who actually care are women from other cultures or other generations. You know, older generation women, a lot of them tend to care a bit more. Women who I've known from Africa, they tend to care. But if you're talking about modern Western or westernized women from the younger generations, you know, in my experience, most of them couldn't give a damn about anything men are going through. All they want is results, and they don't care how you get the result. You see, this is why you get a lot of women, even in my generation, who they would date criminals and drug dealers and gangsters and all this kind of business, because they don't really care about what the man does to attain his social status, as long as he gets that social status. Now, these women don't necessarily want the violence and the drama, which is some of them like it and get a kick out of it, but a lot of them don't. They don't want the violence and the drama and all this kind of business associated with a man being a criminal, but they want to be associated with a man who gets respect from his peer group, a man who has money, a man who is an alpha male. This is all the things they want, and they don't care how the man has got to that level in society. He could have killed people, he could have done all kind of fuckery, but if he has that status, they want him. They're basically willing to turn a blind eye to all kinds of terrible deeds that this man may have done. And that's, you know, indicative of the way a lot of women, not all women, but the way a lot of women think in modern society. Like, I want results from the man. It don't matter what he's done, who he's killed, or what drugs he's sold. You know, as long as he don't bring it around me. Yeah, definitely in my environment where I grew up, there was a lot of women like that. A lot of women like that. Right, Nisha says, the women that complain about men chatting them up in public love the attention. It happens to me, and I don't tell people about it, but when another girl mentions it, I know it's because she wants men. Exactly right, Nisha. You know, women, look, I understand that there are some men who are going to pester women. Yeah, there are some men who become a nuisance. There are some men who women genuinely, when they see this man on the street, they, you know, take a different route to wherever they were going to go, because they want to avoid being pestered by this man. I understand that that goes on, but when it comes to attention that women get from men online, and, you know, occasionally being approached in the street by a man who's polite, etc., etc., a lot of women will brush this off and say they don't like it, but really deep down they get so much from it. You get so much confidence from people giving you attention. You know, they say that energy flows where attention goes, or attention goes where energy flows. When somebody is approaching you and showing interest in you, it actually empowers you energetically. I know this sounds a little esoteric, but this is what happens. It empowers you energetically. And I'll give you an example. So I've got my YouTube channel, right? You know, however many subs it's got, 50,000 or whatever it is. When I was much smaller on YouTube, when I was only 1,000 subscribers or whatever the case may be, I made less videos. And it's not just because, you know, I figured out the money system in YouTube and how to make money. No, it's not that. When you get attention, even on something like YouTube, from people who are coming to your channel, watching your videos, thumbsing up, interacting with you, asking you questions, it gives you energy. Yeah, it gives you energy. The attention you get from people actually empowers you, and it gives you energy to do more. And it's the same with, you know, people on the street. If you're somebody who gets a lot of attention from the opposite sex, always approaching you and, you know, trying to holler at you and be with you, you are going to be empowered by that. You're going to be energized by that, whether you realize it or not. And with women, they get so much attention, a lot of women, which they take for granted. They think, these men are all idiots and leave me alone. I'm not looking for this guy or that guy. This one's too nice. This one's too poor, or whatever the case may be. But they don't realize that subconsciously they're actually getting a boost from all this attention. That if you took all this attention away, a lot of women would fall to pieces. I'm telling you now. a lot of women, particularly these young girls in the social media generation, if they put pictures up and they don't get a certain amount of likes, they're having a nervous breakdown. If you removed all the attention altogether that they get from men, even if it's from men they don't want to be with, if you removed all that attention, you're going to see these girls in a seriously bad way mentally. In fact, I've got an article I want to show you guys about that in a second. Alright, Ismail says, Hatman, why do you think the crowd supports boxers on the way to the top, but once they are there, the crowd then starts to see them fall and hate on them? It's a very good question. I think that's an aspect of human psychology where I think once a fighter becomes successful, he is now detached from his fans, if that makes sense. Like, when a fighter is on the way up, people invest their hopes and dreams into this fighter, and in a way they're living vicariously through the fighter, and they see, maybe on a subconscious level, the fighter's journey and struggle to the top as a projection of their own struggle and their own desire to make it to the top. But once the fighter has made it, and he has the riches, and he has the fame, and he has the adulation of everybody, the fans look at him like, okay, he's made it, well, I haven't made it. I'm still down here at the bottom. So we need to see him come down. We need to see the next plucky challenger, the next plucky contender that we can all get behind and we can all live vicariously through. We need to look at that. So I think there's a certain amount of people who think like that when it comes to boxers or any type of celebrity, but particularly boxers, because with boxers you see the journey. You know, you see them climbing up through the ranks and the struggles and trials and tribulations. You see it. So I think that's one of the aspects of human nature that contributes to why people start hating on boxers who become successful, is because they can no longer relate to the boxer when he's made it. You know, a struggling boxer you can relate to, even if he's winning, but he's struggling and winning, you can relate to that. But a guy who has made it and he's sitting on top of the clouds, and yeah, how do you relate to that? A lot of people can't relate anymore, so they want to see him come down. Matthew Bromfield talking about Fight Night Champion. I've never actually liked Fight Night. Truth be told, I've talked about it several times. I don't really like boxing games in general, which I know people find strange, given that I'm a boxing guy. But yeah, I've never really liked boxing games. The only two boxing games, let me not say the only two, the only three boxing games I've ever really liked was Mike Tyson boxing on the PS2, Muhammad Ali boxing, and Evander Holyfield boxing on the Sega Mega Drive. Other than that, I've never really liked any boxing games. Okay, Errol Spence says, Hatman, in the podcast you said you prefer dating African women to Caribbean women. Is there a reason behind this? Because as you are Caribbean, I would have assumed you prefer Caribbean women. Well, Caribbean women are not as traditional as African women in general. The Caribbean is a big place. So let me not say Caribbean women, but the Caribbean women from the English-speaking countries, like from my country, Jamaica, Trinidad, etc., these women tend to be ratchet, right? For lack of a better term, that's a term the youngsters use these days, ratchet. So if you go to Bahamas, Jamaica, Trinidad, you're gonna find a lot of ratchet women. That's what you're gonna find, and I do not want anything to do with ratchet women. I mean, just look at Jamaican dancehall culture. If you don't know anything about Jamaican dancehall culture, just look it up on the internet. Now, there are some traditional women in places like Jamaica, and some of the English-speaking Caribbean islands, but not as much as there is in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean islands. If you go to somewhere like Puerto Rico, Cuba, you're going to find a lot more traditional women there. But in the English-speaking islands, yeah, a lot of ratchet, you know, ghetto women, and they just don't make good wives or girlfriends at all, most of them, you know. So I stay away. I've been dating African women since about 2004. Yeah, 2004 was when I discovered, quote unquote, I think, was it 2004 or was it before that? It might have been slightly before that, but it was when I was in my early 20s that I discovered African women, and I've really never looked back since then. I've had like situations, if you want to call them that, with Caribbean women since then, but I've tried to keep them to a minimum. And these were situations, these were not relationships. In my generation, you call them a link. Yeah, I've had certain Caribbean girls that were links, but in terms of relationships, the relationships I've had since I've been in my early 20s have been all with African women. And when I say African women, I'm talking about women who are born and raised in Africa, because it's just far more harmonious in the relationships, you know. They tend to do a lot more for you, and they tend to be more family orientated. They tend to not want to go out and rave and all this kind of thing. And you know, some feminist minded women are gonna think, oh, that's terrible, Hat Man. You see, you just want a slave. No, I don't want a slave. In fact, I might even get my ex on here. I'm still cool with most of my exes, just to show you where I'm at. I might get my ex on here actually, and she can tell you what I was like to be with. How about that? And she's an African woman, and she will tell you that I was great to be with. I'm telling you, that's what she's gonna say. She's gonna say I was generous and I was kind and I looked after her and all this kind of business. And you know, anybody who wants to know why we're not together, is because she wanted kids and I wasn't ready for kids. You know, that's what the big problem was between us. We were just in a different stage in life, and I wasn't ready for kids at the time. She wanted kids, and we went our separate ways. But that was a good relationship, you know. And I never asked her to do anything for me. She was trained, and I want to use that word very carefully, trained, but she was brought up by her parents, her mum, particularly her aunties, to be a wife. This is how they're raised. Certainly in my generation, this is how African women are raised. They're raised from young to be a wife, not to be an Instagram model, not to be, you know, anything like, not to be a stripper. They're raised how to be a wife. So from young, they teach them to cook, to clean, to keep the house and all this kind of business. So God's honest truth, the African women I've had relationships with, I've never told them to do anything. I've never said, cook for me, clean for me, wash it. I've never told them anything. And this is why I've never looked back when it comes to dating African women. Because the first African girlfriend I had, she was from Sierra Leone. And she was only about 19 at the time. 18, I think 18, 19. And I'd never, you know, all my girlfriends prior to that, all the girls that I had dealings with were all Caribbean girls. So this is the first African girl I've been with. She was born and raised in Sierra Leone. And from the moment that me and her were together, she was like running my life. Not in a bad way, in a good way. You know, she was cooking, she was cleaning, she was doing everything. And I was like, oh shit, I've never seen this before. I'm used to a whole heap of drama. I'm used to the girl kissing her teeth and, you know, me having to lock her off for getting an attitude. That's what I'm used to. I'm used to her, you know, wanting this and wanting that. And you understand? I'm not used to somebody who their whole emphasis is on giving rather than what can they get, you know? And obviously somebody like me, I don't get railroaded, I don't get walked over by women, and so that's going to cause problems for women who have a certain kind of attitude and feel entitled. You know, when I was a teenager, it was just always drama. So, but yeah, when I discovered African women, I never looked back from then. I had the last dealing I had with a Caribbean girl who I was, you know, in a situationship with, just linking the girl. It ended in disaster. The girl became crazy. She physically attacked me, as girls do these days, right? She physically attacked me. She was throwing wine bottles at me and all kind of shit. And after that incident where she physically attacked me and she was trying to get at me, and lucky her friend was there, because her friend was there to try and jump in and hold her down and keep her away from me. Luckily I was able to get out of that situation because this girl was crazy. But after that, the girl started stalking me, and she was stalking me for best part of a year. That was crazy. And that was a Jamaican girl, you know, British born Jamaican girl. And after that, it just reminded me, I shouldn't have needed any reminding, but that reminded me why I don't deal with Caribbean girls no more. Because that is not uncommon in terms of the behavior that you get out of them. That's not uncommon. I'm not saying they all behave like that, but that is fairly common. You date a Caribbean girl from South London, don't be surprised if you get that kind of shit. Trying to physically attack you, throw things at you, and her whole thing was to try and provoke me into retaliating so she could call the police and get me locked up. That was her whole thing. Thank God that didn't happen. Thank God the friend was there. because this girl was going for it. Like, she was, oh my god, she was going for it. So after that, I was like, never again. No more, no more Caribbean girls ever. I'm done. Okay, Errol Spence Jr. says, Hatman, what are your thoughts on women shooting their shot towards men? Um, hmm. It depends on how they do it. Depends on how they do it. Because, let me tell you this. A couple of the African girls that I've been with, they pursued me. You know, but they didn't pursue me the way like one of these Insta tramps might pursue you. You know, if one of these Insta tramps likes you, like let's say you're a prominent man, you're someone who gets a lot of attention from females, these Insta tramps might be all up in your inbox, you know, with suggestive comments, or they might send you some, you know, risky snaps and stuff like that. That's their way of pursuing you, you know, using their sexuality to try and lure you in. The African women who I was with who pursued me, they pursued me in a very different way. They tried to build a friendship with me. They were very proactive in terms of trying to establish a friendship. That's how they went about it. They didn't try approach me in the street and holler at me for my number. No, it wasn't like that. But I met them socially, and they just, you know, they just tried to cater for me as much as possible and show they were a good friend, and anything you need, I got you, and all this kind of business. That's how that's how the African girls went about it. So that, I think, is fine. But if you're talking about a girl walking up to you in the street and saying, yo, let me get your number, that's crazy to me. That's crazy, because if she's doing that to you, who else is she doing that to? That's very male for her to be doing that, you know. I'm not saying that a woman who does that is necessarily like a man in the way that she thinks, because it might be a one-off. She might have been drinking or something and she's in a nightclub and she approaches a guy. That's different. But a woman who can just soberly approach you and holler at you, that's off key to me. Yeah, I find that off key. Okay, Gennady Alvarez says, Hatman, do you believe in hell? You say you believe the world revolves around witchcraft. What are your thoughts? Well, hell is not a requisite of believing in witchcraft. You know, believing the world revolves around witchcraft, you don't have to believe in hell at the same time. So I've got no idea whether there is anything like a hell. You know, an afterlife which is the antithesis of heaven, where you go and it's nothing but pain and turmoil. I've got no idea whether there's anything like hell. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So I'm totally agnostic about the whole concept of hell. I'm agnostic. I've got no idea whether it exists or not. But when it comes to witchcraft, this is something I can observe. This is something I can talk to people about, who can relay their experiences to me, and I can look at history and look at how prevalent witchcraft has been in many different civilizations, human sacrifice, etc., etc. So there's tangible things you can look at when it comes to witchcraft, you know. But with hell, they say you go there if you've been bad when you die. How can anybody know if it exists? And unless you've died and then come back from hell, how can you know? You know. So witchcraft is much easier to, I don't want to say prove, but I want to say believe in. From a logical point of view, it's more understandable that you would believe in witchcraft if you've studied it and if you've met a lot of people who have been around it or been the victims of it. Alright, let me see here. Wesley says Dylan White will lose again if he takes the AJ fight. Yeah, I think most people believe the same. Errol Spence Jr. says, Hatman, I have noticed, why do women tend to want a man when the man has a girlfriend, for example? Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed, and I've said this before. Whenever I've been in a relationship, or not even just in a relationship, whenever I've been linking a woman or courting a woman, that's when I get the most attention from women. It's when I'm already with someone. And most men will have noticed this. I remember Chris Rock even talked about this. He said when he got married, all of a sudden these women come out of the woodwork who never wanted him before, but now that he's married, all of a sudden they want him. And again, this is another thing which people might find difficult to believe, but I've done this in my life as like an experiment for myself, whereby once I get a woman, or once I start talking to a new woman, and you know we're talking on a regular basis and there's some kind of connection there, women who I haven't spoken to for months, sometimes years, will come out the woodwork and start hollering at me again. And I'm talking about women who, they don't know where I live, they don't know who I'm dealing with, they don't know this woman I've just started talking to, but they feel it in the ether. They somehow, in the unseen, start thinking about me again. And women, I'm telling you now, I've said this many times, women are more perceptive than men when it comes to the unseen. This is why in my experience, from what I've observed and the people I've met, women tend to be more precognitive than men. From what I've seen, there are far more female psychics than male psychics. Women, for whatever reason, are more tapped into the unseen and what goes on in the unseen. Naturally tapped into it. So I think, yeah, I've done this experiment many times where I'm like, okay, let's see. I'm starting to deal with this new woman now. Let's see if the girls from my past come out of the woodwork. And every single time, like clockwork, these women come out of the woodwork who I haven't spoken to for, you know, months or years. They start hollering at me when my attention is now focused on a new woman. It's the strangest thing, but I've seen it. It's happened so many times that it is definitely not a coincidence. So it's not just women who see you with a new woman who are now attracted to you. It's even women who you've dealt with before who are now more attracted to you. And again, it's not about you now give off a different vibe, because these are women I haven't even been talking to who are coming out the woodwork. You know, I haven't been talking to them for months or years. So how can I be giving off a different vibe when I'm not even talking to them? They're not even seeing me. I'm not on social media with my personal business. So how can they possibly get a different vibe off me in terms of seeing, because they're not seeing me? It's something in the ether. It's something I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people and they're not going to believe it, but I just go by my experience. It's like, for example, when I pulled up the article about experiments which are now being conducted where old people are being infused with the blood of young people, and these are now scientific mainstream experiments, and they're the results of these experiments are showing that if you put the blood of a young person into an old person, the old person can start reversing in terms of the aging process. They can start looking and feeling younger. It can cure certain physical ailments, at least for a short period of time, if you inject them with the blood of a young person. Now, practitioners of witchcraft have known this for thousands of years. They've known for thousands of years that if you extract the blood of a young person, you kill a child or a young person, and then you drink their blood, it's going to have anti-aging properties. It's going to revitalize you. It's going to cure you of a lot of problems. They've known this for centuries, probably thousands of years. But it's only now that mainstream science is catching on, and they're saying, oh, okay, yeah, well, we've done this experiment and it shows if you put the young blood into an old person, it reverses the aging process. Science is having to catch up with people's actual physical experiences. Do you understand? And I think one day in the future, science will catch up to what I'm talking about here, where I'm telling you that these women have not seen me, I've not spoken to them for months or years, but as soon as I start dealing with a new woman, they come out the woodwork. They can sense it in the ether. As crazy as that sounds, I'm telling you, this is I'm a logical human being. I am not naturally superstitious. Yeah, when I was a child, I didn't believe in God. I got taken to church a few times. I never liked it in church. I was never superstitious. As soon as I found out what atheism was, I jumped on it. I think it was in high school when I first heard this term, or secondary school. I first heard this term, atheism. And I was like, yes, I'm an atheist. And I was a staunch, dyed-in-the-wool atheist for years, because I didn't see any reason to believe in God or the spirit world is just all nonsense. That was me. Do you understand what I'm saying? But through experience, I started to see things differently. Through actual real life experience with people who have been connected to the spiritual world, and even experiences like I've just described in my own life, where that cannot be a coincidence. It's happened too many times. And I remember at the time, like I said several times, when I've started dealing with a new girl, and I thought to myself, okay, if it's a coincidence, this time these girls are not going to come out the woodwork again. They're not going to start texting me and calling me, and that ain't going to happen again this time, because it's happened a couple times before. This time it ain't going to happen. If it does happen, it can't be a coincidence. And lo and behold, it happened again. It happened again. So there's something going on there, more than what science at this point could explain. Alright, let me get back to some of these comments here. Apologies if I don't get to everybody's comment. There is quite a lot of comments. Okay, Ayed says, I think some women struggle to admit they are in the wrong. They hate the feeling of being in the wrong. They will always try to make it the guy's fault. Yeah, I mean, some men are like that too, to be fair. Insta-tramps, yes, Nisha. That's why I called him. I called him Insta-tramps. He's Insta-tramps. And you know, it really is becoming kind of like a toxic situation for the younger generation when it comes to male-female relations, because the Instagram generation, the women in the Instagram generation, the social media generation, are becoming increasingly narcissistic, and therefore the types of men who they go for, and the only types of men who can really handle those kind of women, tend to be the most narcissistic men. That's the reality of it, you know. And I don't consider myself narcissistic in general. I don't think I'm a narcissistic person. But when I'm dealing with, you know, young girls who I just look at them for what they project, right? I'm not looking at them as potential girlfriend material or anything like that. And by the way, I have to go back and rewind a little bit on what I said before. Just to clarify, the girls I've dealt with in relationships since 2000, the early 2000s, have all been African girls. There have been, you know, Caribbean girls scattered throughout who I wasn't in relationships with. Alright, but the last one, like I told you, she went crazy and started stalking and all that kind of business. And after that, I was like, you know what? I don't think I can even have a Caribbean girl as a link anymore. After that situation. But anyway, my mentality when I deal with girls like that, I am narcissistic in my mentality, because they're narcissistic. Do you understand? To be able to deal with them, you have to be narcissistic. You can't care about what they want and their feelings and any of that business, because they don't care about you. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you are caring about somebody and having their best interests at heart when they don't have yours at heart. You know, I see it as a transaction. When I'm dealing with a woman like that, I see it as a transaction. I don't see it as anything more. It's all very cold and clinical to me. And it's about me. It's about what I'm getting out of the situation. And if I can get what I want out of the situation and give minimum in return, then that's a win for me. That's a narcissistic approach. But I treat people the way that they behave. If a woman was virtuous, I'm never going to treat her like that. In fact, I'm a person, and any of my exes will tell you, I'm a very giving person. Do you understand? I'm a very generous guy. I'm somebody who likes to give. When I give and when I'm generous to people who I'm close to, it makes me feel good. Do you understand? To help people and give and all that kind of business. That's the kind of person I am. But when I'm dealing with a narcissistic woman, I'm going to be narcissistic. You understand? I'm not going to be generous and nice and kind and any of that business. I'm going to lie, probably. Tell her whatever she needs to hear in order for me to get what I want. And that's Yes, am I contributing to the problem? Probably I am. I probably am. Because that woman is now going to go away if she's dealt with me, and she's going to think, right, I'm going to go even harder than I was going before. I'm going to treat men even worse than I was treating them before. So maybe I'm part of the problem, but again, this is a sinking ship. This new social media generation, the feminists out there, MGTOW, this is a toxic situation and it's a sinking ship. And as I keep saying, the best way to get out of the situation is to jump ship, to jump on a different ship, which means to try and acquire a woman from a different culture. Like I mentioned before, there are still some good women, and there are still women who, if you are a man in a position of power, you can get women in Western society. Alright, as I've said before, I've always been considered a good looking guy. I'm making good money. I'm not a millionaire or anything, but I'm doing pretty well. I got my own place, you know, all that kind of business. I can drive. So I can still go out here and get some of these Insta tramps. But what are they really going to offer me other than sex? They don't have anything else to offer me. There is nothing. I'm not going to get any kind of intellectual stimulation from most of these Insta tramps. They're not going to, you know, turn into my wifey. They're not going to be, you know, build a home with me. Nah, they're just going to sit around all day taking pictures of themselves on Instagram and probably complaining about the fact I don't give them enough attention. You know, how I'm horrible and all this kind of being selfish. And then they're going to try and make me jealous and go off with someone else and make sure that I know about it. And I'm going to say, good for you. If he's a mug, go be with him. But yes, it's a toxic situation we're dealing with in terms of male-female relations in this modern age, in the internet, social media generation. So you just have to try and get through it as best you can. But yeah, make sure that if you do find a good woman, that you treat her well. That's what I will say. And when I say treat her well, I understand that men are naturally promiscuous. Not all men, but a large proportion of men are naturally promiscuous. You see this in the animal kingdom. You see it among humans. Men are naturally more promiscuous than females. They are designed to be naturally more promiscuous than females. It serves a function in nature for men to be naturally more promiscuous. And because of that, when a man gets married or when he's with one woman and she might be a good woman, he's still going to be looking elsewhere a lot of the time. Yes, he is. His eye is going to be looking at this woman over here, that woman over there. This is the naturally promiscuous nature of a man. Now, it's very important where possible to be upfront with a woman. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're somebody who intends to have a couple different girlfriends, tell the woman in the beginning, and I know this sounds crazy, but tell the woman in the beginning, this is a situation. You're going to be girlfriend number 2 or number 3, and she has the opportunity to take it or leave it. In Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, there are many countries where polygamy is legal. And in such countries, as a man, if you're courting a woman, you tell her, I'm already married. Do you mind being wife number 2? She can take it or leave it. She doesn't have to marry you. If she wants to be the only one, she can say, nah, I'm not with that. I want to be the only one. I don't want to be wife number 2 or wife number 3. And that's fair enough. As long as people know where they stand, then nobody can complain at the end of the day. This is why I don't understand why polygamy is not legal. Well, I know why they made it illegal, because, you know, Christianity makes it illegal. But in today's world, I don't know why they don't legalize it. Because as long as you're upfront and you declare to this woman that you're courting that you're already married, what's the problem? She can take it or leave it. Because men are naturally more promiscuous than women, and you need to try and contain that instinct in men. You do need to contain it. You can't have men running around fucking everything in sight. Well, that's what you do have in many societies, right? It's very destructive. You're just left with a bunch of single mothers everywhere because you got these absentee fathers. And in the Caribbean, I can tell you where I'm from, in the Caribbean, absentee fathers are a massive problem. Massive problem. Yeah, you got men in certain Caribbean countries like Jamaica who have literally got more kids than their age. Yeah, you got men who are 40 that have had 50 kids. That is seriously messed up. That can't go on. You understand? And this is why in certain cultures, like in Islamic culture, they limit men to 4 wives, and they're very strict on infidelity. In a lot of Muslim countries, they say, okay, we're gonna allow you to have 4 wives, and you have to be able to prove that you can financially support more than 1 wife, or we won't even allow you to marry more than 1. So you have to be able to prove it, and then you can go ahead and marry another wife if you wish, but you can only have up to 4, and if you cheat, well, you're going to end up in prison. You understand? So they understand that this is an aspect of male nature which needs to be catered for, but it also needs to be contained. You understand? Because you don't want men running around sleeping with everyone's wife and everyone's daughter and everyone's girlfriend. You don't want that. It creates social unrest. It creates social problems. But at the same time, you know, you need to find a way to cater for the male instinct without, you know, letting the male instinct get out of control. So that's where they bring the 4 wives limiting in Islamic culture, which I think is a good system. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. Our Christian Louis says, witchcraft is real, trust me. I've seen that stuff firsthand. Don't mess with it though. Yeah, I believe it's very real too. I believe it's very, very real. I believe it's very real. Errol Spence Jr. says, Hatman, what should you do in a relationship if your partner's family does not like you, such as get along with you? Should you leave straight away? Well, I've been in that situation. In fact, the girl I told you about, the first African girl I ever dated, that's why we split up, because her family didn't like me. And the reason that her family didn't like me is because I wasn't African, I wasn't from her country, Sierra Leone, and I wasn't from her tribe. That is one obstacle that you will encounter if you are not from a traditional culture, you know, or if you're trying to date someone of a different culture to you, particularly if it's, you know, somewhere in Africa, so on and so forth. They're very traditional, they have their ways, and a lot of the time the parents do not want their daughters dating somebody outside of their tribe, outside of their country, outside of the continent. A lot of the time they don't want that, and you will encounter resistance from the family. And that's what happened with the first African girl I had a relationship with from Sierra Leone. Her parents found out, because her parents were not living in the UK. She was living in the UK with her auntie and uncle. Her parents were still in Sierra Leone. She was sent to the UK to be schooled and to live with her auntie and uncle and what have you. But when it was discovered that she was dating me, you know, it was some Romeo and Juliet type shit, where they had to shut it down and lock it off and make sure that this girl never saw me again. So yeah, it's something you have to be mindful of, but we're not in an ideal situation, you know. So for somebody like me who doesn't come from, I mean, my dad's generation in my country, they were traditional, but my generation, they're mostly all ratchet. So there's no chance of me going to my country and finding a traditional woman. Forget about it. That's not happening. So I have to look to Africa, and you know, a lot of African people have certain views about Caribbeans, certain prejudices, and I can understand why. I can totally understand why. So it's not an ideal situation for me, but I just have to try and do the best I can with it. That's all I can really say. If you're somebody who comes from a traditional culture, like if you are African, then it should be easy for you. You should just look at your own country and, you know, find a traditional girl from your own country. But what I'm finding is a lot of young guys don't want traditional girls. yeah, maybe when they have been burned a few times and when they've dealt with women for long enough, this new generation of women, they realize, actually, I don't want to be dealing with women like this anymore. Maybe then the light switches on and they start pursuing a traditional girl. All right, but a lot of these young guys are so mesmerized by these Insta tramps that all they want really is an Insta tramp. All they want is their own little Nicki Minaj or their own little Cardi B. That's all they want. Do you understand? Because that's what they're being brought up to covet. That's what they're being brought up to desire, is these Insta tramps. You know, like, let me give you an example. There's a song by the South London rap group, what are they called? Krypton Conan, right? And one of the lines in their most famous track, what's the track called again? Don't Waste My Time. The track's called Don't Waste My Time. And one of the lines in there is, I don't need that drama unless she Rihanna. That's what he says, something like that. So he's basically saying that he don't want no drama from a woman unless it's Rihanna. Alright? Like Rihanna, some glamorous, fairly good looking girl who's a diva. If it's her and she's my baby mum, I'll take drama from her. Do you understand? Because she's good looking. It's like, what the fuck? You're supposed to not tolerate drama from anybody. Her being good looking should not make you tolerate her drama. Do you understand? You should be looking at how virtuous she is and holding that up above everything else, way above her looks. Obviously you need to be physically attracted to a woman, but you can't have looks at the top of the tree in terms of your requisites for a wifey. Looks can't be the number one. But for a lot of these young guys, looks are the number one thing. That they're mesmerized by the looks and they don't really give a shit about anything else. That's what I'm discovering with the younger generation. Their standards are so low for women. All the woman has to do is just be good looking, even moderately good looking. Just scrub up well with some makeup and stuff like that, and put some, you know, sexually revealing clothes on, and that's it. That's all they need from a woman. It's crazy. Every Desire said, okay, Hatman, on your Floyd is Jesus video, who was the YouTuber who made the video? It was me. I made that video. That was my voice. Aryed says, Snapchat literally everything now. I've seen people post about them having a shower and stuff. My friend was showing me his Snapchat, so glad I don't have one. Christian Lewis says, Hatman, I started watching Hiding in My Room. The guy is the most strange. That guy is one of the most strangest guys I've come across. He even was talking about cuckold fantasies with his wife. Yes, Christian Louis. Hiding in My Room, aka Daniel Lord, is a fuck up. He is a messed up guy, but he's also hilarious. Like, I know an entertaining person when I see one, and that guy Hiding in My Room, he has something. He has got the X factor in terms of being an entertainer. You know, as messed up as he is, he's entertaining. He talks in a certain way and he presents his life in a certain way that it's amusing and compelling to watch. So yeah, he's going places with that YouTube channel. His channel was grown extremely fast. When I started watching his channel, I think he had about 35,000 subscribers, maybe a bit less than that. And just in a few months since then, it's just grown massively because he just has something, you know. He has something there. Alright, anyway guys, I'm gonna actually, before I go, let me share this link with you that I promised I would. 1 second. Let me share this link. Where we at? It was a link about yeah, The Guardian. Depression in girls linked to higher use of social media. Let me try to get this link on screen if I can. I'll show you guys. Social media is fucking people's minds up, you know, especially young girls. That it's messing young girls up worse than it's messing young boys up, according to this article anyway. Let me see here. Where we at? Where is this link? Man, where is this flipping link? Bear with me a second, people. Try to share it again, see if it comes up. I just want to show you guys this article before I bounce. It's good. It's a good article to read. Okay, let me. How can I send this? Alright, send it there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Just copy that and paste it. Paste it here. Where we at? Okay. Yep. Right. Let me just answer a question there I saw a second ago in the chat. Okay, Every Desire says, I'm talking about the video you made years ago. It was clearly not your voice. It was an American. And I keep telling you, that was me. Floyd is Jesus, part 1 and part 2 on my old channel, Hatman TV. That was me. It was me putting on an American accent. I did that video in my girlfriend's sister's front room. Yeah, the Floyd is Jesus video. That was me putting on an American accent. It was me. It was me. Yeah. Alright, let me get to this article here. Right, you guys should be able to see this now. Yeah, says here, depression in girls linked to higher use of social media. Research suggests link between social media use and depressive symptoms was stronger for girls compared with boys. I think one of the reasons that is stronger for girls compared to boys is because the whole vanity situation on social media, where girls are just allowing their vanity to get carried away with them, is very toxic. Guys don't tend to interact with each other in the same way as girls. Girls tend to interact with each other in terms of comparing who's prettier or who can get the more likes and all this kind of business. Guys do it to a certain extent too, but it's far more prevalent with women. So what you get with girls is you get a lot of girls on social media like Instagram, etc., who go on there, and because they get a lot of attention, they become narcissistic if they weren't narcissistic already, and they become increasingly narcissistic, and their behavior becomes more arrogant, not only towards men but towards other women as well. And so women who go on social media and they don't get that kind of attention, and they crave that kind of attention, they think this is how you're supposed to be as a woman. You're supposed to be like a Nicki Minaj, you're supposed to be like a Cardi B, you're supposed to be like a Rihanna, you're supposed to be like, you know, whoever, Kim Kardashian, or who was that joker I saw the other day? Somebody showed me this girl, what's she called? Bad Barbie. This idiot, this young girl. They think that that's how you're supposed to be, and you're supposed to be popping, you're supposed to be getting all this attention, you're supposed to get all these likes. When they don't get that, see what I told you, women are not used to being in a situation in this day and age where they're not getting attention. You understand? For them, they don't know what it's like to be in a man's shoes. The average man doesn't get any attention from women, or very little. If you compare the amount of attention the average man gets from the opposite sex to the attention the average woman gets from the opposite sex, it's not even close. If you go to I don't know, Instagram, and you check the inbox of the average woman, her inbox is going to be absolutely packed with messages from men. But you go to the Instagram of the average man, and he's probably going to have no messages in there, other than probably messages from his friends trolling him. That's probably what he's going to get. But he ain't going to get no attention from women, the average man. So men basically learn to cope without attention. Yeah, men learn to cope without attention. Men learn how to cope with rejection, with how to get rejected and still stay confident. Now, a lot of the time it hurts men's confidence. Of course it does. It hurts the ego, it hurts the confidence, and it makes men doubt themselves. But the successful men learn how to brush their shoulders off and keep going. Even though they've been rejected a bunch of times, they keep going, they keep going, they keep going, and they keep their head high until they get success somewhere. Women are so spoiled in terms of the amount of attention they get that when they don't get attention, they're having a nervous breakdown. And that's what you're seeing here. That's one of the reasons I think you're seeing depression in females, which is linked to social media more so than depression in males linked to social media. Now, males, I personally believe, are more depressed in general than females are in Western society, and I think the suicide rate shows that. But in terms of what social media does and the effect it has on people, I do think social media is having a more negative effect on women than it is on men in general. I think it's having a negative effect on everybody, alright? But I think it's worse for women than it is for men in terms of the effect it's having on them, in terms of the way they feel. And because, as I say, a lot of women become narcissistic on social media, and other women feel just terribly inadequate because they're not getting the attention that they feel like they should be getting. It says here, girls' much higher rate of depression than boys is closely linked to the greater time they spend on social media. Again, this whole notion that girls suffer depression at a higher rate than men, I dispute that. I think that girls are more likely to go to the doctor and claim they're depressed, whereas boys are more likely to suppress it and not tell anybody that they're depressed. And so therefore there's a higher detection rate of depression among women than there is among men, or among girls than there is among boys. But in terms of who's killing themselves and who's ended up homeless and who's ending up as drunks and drug addicts, it's overwhelmingly men, which shows you that men actually are the ones who are more depressed than women, or boys more so than girls. But be that as it may, yeah, I do think social media is particularly toxic for females in terms of the mindset that it creates in females, or the mindset that it cultivates. Online bullying, poor sleep, it says here, are things that that females encounter on social media, or they encounter online bullying, and they suffer poor sleep and a low mood as a result of too much social media. As many as 3/4 of 14-year-old girls suffer from depression. See right there, 3/4 of 14-year-old girls. Okay, who suffer from depression? Okay, sorry, I read it wrong. As many as 3/4 of 14-year-old girls who suffer from depression and have low self-esteem are unhappy with the way they look and sleep for 7 hours or less each night, a study found. 7 hours. I sleep for 7 hours or less most nights. Is that bad? 7 hours or less? I sleep for about 7 hours. I don't tend to sleep 8 hours straight. I tend to sleep like 5 hours, then I wake up, I do a bit of work, go back to sleep later on in the day. That's how I tend to sleep. Anyway, girls, it seems, are struggling with these aspects of their lives more than boys, in some cases considerably so. Professor Yvonne Kelly from the University College London, who led the team behind the findings. The results promoted renewed concern about the rapidly accumulating evidence that many more girls and young women exhibit a range of mental health problems than boys and young men, and about the damage these can cause, including self-harm and suicidal thoughts. The study is based on interviews with almost 11,000 14-year-olds who are taking part in the Millennium Cohort Study, a major research project into children's lives. It found that many girls spend far more time using social media than boys, and also that they are much more likely to display signs of depression linked to their interaction on platforms such as Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook. Yeah, so I would go along with what they're saying in terms of the social media having a more negative effect on girls than boys. But when it comes to overall depression, I seriously dispute the notion that females or girls are more depressed than boys. I seriously dispute that, because if that was the case, why is it that male suicide is so much higher? Why is it that male chronic drug use and chronic alcoholism is so much higher? Why is it that male homelessness is so much higher? So on and so forth. And in my experience, men tend to be more depressed more often. They just don't talk about it. They don't reveal it. They try and deal with it themselves. Whereas women will, the slightest little thing that's wrong, they're telling somebody about it. They've got a slightly bad mood one day, they're telling their mom that, and then obviously not all women are like this, but a lot of women are, probably most women. They're willing to tell you or tell the people close to them about their feelings all the time. Whereas men will conceal it. And again, this is an aspect of being a man that a lot of people don't understand. As a man, if you show your weakness, you are going to be pounced upon. You are going to be looked at as weak by not only other men, but also women. And this is something that Graham talked about earlier on when it comes to dating Eastern European women. That Eastern European women want a man who's strong. They don't want a man who shows weakness. You understand? And actually it's the same with African women. I'll tell you that too. For anybody who's thinking about dating African women, they want a strong man. They don't want a man who's all in his feelings and crying, and they don't want that kind of man. Yeah? The ex-girlfriend I told you about, who me and her split up because she wanted kids and I didn't want them at the time, she's a very nice human being. She, cooked for me, cleaned for me, and she did everything. But one thing she told me when I was having a conversation with her and her sister, and I was talking about this very thing, about how men cannot show their weakness, so they hide it because people will treat them differently if they do show the weakness. And my girlfriend at the time, very good woman, alright, African woman, she said, if I ever see a man cry, I lose respect for him. Unless his brother or someone close to him has died, I don't want to see a man crying. If I see him crying, I'm going to lose respect for him. A lot of women have told me this over the years, and this is why men keep their feelings in a lot of the time, because there are negative consequences for showing your weakness. Other men are going to see it as a sign of weakness and treat you accordingly. A lot of other men. And other women, or women are going to see it as a sign of weakness. A lot of women. So, women on the other hand, they can show their vulnerability, and there are not so many negative consequences for doing so. So when men keep their feelings in, it's not because they're stupid. No, it's because they're dealing with their reality around them. Yeah, you can come out and be emotional and do whatever you want, but there are going to be consequences for that. Social consequences. Do you want to deal with those consequences? Those negative social consequences? That's the question that a man has to ask himself if he's going to reveal his feelings. And like I said earlier, particularly in this new social media generation, these women want results. They don't want a man who's sad and depressed and feeling down about himself and he's not confident. No, they want a man who's confident, who's self-assured. These are the virtues that women look for in a man. Confidence, self-assuredness, etc. So there are so many reasons for a man to hold his feelings in. There are so many reasons for a man to hide his depression. And this is why I think these statistics are skewed when they claim that girls are more depressed than boys. That's not at all what I've seen. What I've seen is the exact opposite of that. But anyway, yeah. Let me put this link in the chat box actually. put it in the chat box here. If any of you guys want to read it. Pop out the chat again. Answer a couple more questions and I'm going to bounce people. Big up Aaron. Big up, big up. Jones 20 says, Hatman, what did you make of Showtime during Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight week, getting Jim Gray to ask boxing legends of the heavyweight division such as Lewis, Holyfield and Bo about AJ ducking Wilder? I mean, they've got an agenda there, as you would expect. So it is what it is. You know, all the different networks have got an agenda. Sky have got an agenda to make AJ look like the man. Showtime have got an agenda to make their fighters look like the ones in the right. You know, BT Sport the same way. So it is what it is. As far as Lewis, Holyfield and Bo, how many of them actually know AJ on a personal level? How many of them talk to him on a regular basis? I mentioned this in one of my videos. Lennox Lewis definitely is closer to Tyson Fury than he is to AJ. And from what I've seen, he also is closer to Deontay Wilder on a personal level than he is to AJ. AJ comes across as somebody who doesn't really let a lot of people into his circle. And AJ doesn't come across as the most sociable guy from what I've seen. He's very guarded about who he lets into his circle, who he socializes with. That's how he comes across to me. AJ is actually not really on social media that much compared to most other celebrities of his level, is he? He posts the, you know, social media videos here and there, but he doesn't show you every aspect of his life. He's quite guarded from what I've seen. You know, which is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's probably a good thing in most instances. But yeah, I just think it's a case of those guys, Bo, Holyfield, Lewis, they're not really close to AJ. So most people are going to come down in favor of whoever they're closest to. That's just how it goes. Anyway, peeps, I'm going to end this right here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the live stream. And yeah, I'll catch you next time on Thursday. We can chop it up again. So yeah, I'll catch you guys then, and I will upload an audio version of this live stream. It should be up later on today or tomorrow. I'm gonna go do some work and then hit the gym, hopefully, if my legs can handle it. I was in the gym last night actually, and I did quite a lot. So I'm gonna see if my body is not aching too bad and I can get another gym session in. So alright peeps, I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.